Hey everyone, it's triplemangothreat, and today we're going over a really cool deck tech with our commanders Haldan, Avid, Arcanist, and Pako, Arcane Retriever. There will be a budget deck tech which is up first, but if you want to see the upgraded version, be sure to stick around and watch that one later in the video. This deck is all about using our opponent's cards by attacking with Pako and casting the cards with Haldan. So we will need both our commanders on the battlefield to keep casting our opponent's cards that are exiled. The great thing about Haldan, besides being able to cast the exiled cards from Pako, is the mana to cast those spells can be any color, and this helps us so much. It's as if we have a chromatic lantern for our exiled cards with Pako. This is a super powerful thing for our commander to do. Now, we'll need lots of ways to get mana and lands, so let's start with the Go Fetch category. Let's talk about Bonder's Ornament, Ketria Crystal, and Moss Diamond. These mana rocks are great for us to cast our commanders earlier and for later on when we have these exiled cards to cast. The more mana we have, the more we can cast and just get further ahead of everyone. Continuing on, we have enchantments to increase the mana we produce with Font of Fertility, Weirding Wood, and Wolf Willow Haven. Font of Fertility gives us a land if we sacrifice it, Weirding Wood gets us a way to draw a card with a clue token, and Wolf Willow can later be sacrificed to get a 2/2 wolf if we ever need it. Creatures that can get us more mana are Elysian Caryatid, Llanowar Elves, and Maraleaf Pixie. Like I said before, all this mana from our mana rocks, enchantments, and our creatures to cast any spells our opponents may have for us will be very helpful. Our next category is Anything is Possible. Let's talk about Chemister's Insight, Hunter's Insight, and Oct. Drawing cards is always important in any deck, but in this deck, drawing cards will help us get more opportunities to manipulate the top card of all players' libraries. I'll explain more later. Now with Explore and Urban Evolution, we can draw and play an additional land. This can help us put all the lands we draw into play, play our commanders, or even play our opponent's cards with all that mana. When it comes to removal, they belong in the category called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. We have Acidic Slime, Dispel, Kenrith's Transformation, Return to Nature. Kenrith's Transformation is an amazing removal spell. It doesn't kill the creature targeted, but if we target their commander is now a 3/3 with no abilities, and we draw a card when the enchantment enters. When this is only a 2 mana enchantment, to draw a card and disable our opponent's commander or whatever important creature on their board, this is a great card to have in the deck. So we're going to need to attack with our commander Pako, so why not benefit off of him attacking with combat treats? We have Aether Tunnel, Blood Mist, Psychic Impetus, and Shiny Impetus. We can get Pako to become unblockable and deal tons of damage with all his counters on him. Blood Mist will give him Double Strike, which won't hurt at all. Actually, it will hurt a lot for our opponents. When we attack with Psychic Impetus attached, we can Scry 2. Now we can stack it to where we Scry 2 and then have Pako's ability go off. This is a great way to set us up for spells that we can cast. Shiny Impetus gives us a treasure token, so that gives us more mana, and it does go to our creature, but I don't ever see us not attacking with our commander, so this is a great inclusion in the deck. Now on to the best category in the deck, we have the ULTI-MUTT strategy. We have ways to fix the top of our library with Darksteel Pendant, Precognition Field, Retreat to the Coral Helm, and Think Tank. Being able to manipulate the top of our library is a great thing with our commander Pako. We don't have to keep a land on top or whatever spell we're not wanting to exile. Just move on to the next card. Precognition Field is costly with exiling the top of our library, and this doesn't work with our commander because they aren't exiled with a fetch counter. But again, if they're lands and we don't need them, we can just exile them and go for another card we'd actually need. We can also affect our opponent's library with Expel from Orazca, Hinder, Memory Lapse, and Vanishment. These spells can get their permanents to the top of their library, and then we can exile them with Pako to cast them for ourselves. I love casting my opponent's cards, and you probably already know this with my other deck tech videos, which you can always watch after this video if you enjoy that playstyle. When we cast non-creature spells, we have a payoff category called PAW-SIBLE. Let's talk about Firebrand Archer, Lunar Mystic, Nibelus of Frost, and Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Dealing our opponents 1 damage for casting a non-creature spell doesn't seem like a lot, And our opponents may think this too, but over time this is a huge threat, and this deck is meant to cast non-creature spells, so it's a real great inclusion in the deck. Lunar Mystic can draw us a card if we pay 1 mana when we cast an instant. Nibelus of Frost can help us tap our opponent's creatures when we cast an instant or sorcery. Saheeli just benefits us all around for casting non-creature spells. This is an amazing card and extremely underrated. By casting non-creature spells, we're making 1/1 servos which can act as blockers when we attack with Pako, or we could even attack with them. Now, the spicy mango of the deck is Song of Creation. We can play an additional land. When we cast a spell, we draw 2 cards, but at our end step, we have to discard our hand. Now, discarding our hand would be really bad, but remember, we have our exiled cards with Pako. It's as if we still have a hand with these cards, so discarding our hand isn't as detrimental as you'd think. Casting our opponent's spells draws us 2 cards, and that is extremely powerful. Now, this is a new segment from a suggestion in the comments, a 50-50 deck tech, and you just watched the budget version. Now let's go with the no budget restriction. As for the Go Fetch category, we have the Mana Rocks, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, and Sol Ring. These cards are going to help us ramp much faster and more efficiently. We also have all the talismans, Talisman of Creativity, Curiosity, and Impulse. These are only going to cost us 2 mana, and we get a colorless mana, or we can lose life to get a certain color from them. And for more ramp spells, we have Farseek, Kodama's Reach, and Sky Shroud Claim. These cards are going to do a lot better than Evolution Charm, Font of Fertility, and Natural Connection. Evolution Charm gets us a basic to our hand, but Farseek will get an island or mountain into play tapped. Font of Fertility costs 3 mana to get 1 basic to the battlefield tapped, while Kodama's Reach, for the same amount of mana, gets us a basic on the battlefield tapped and a basic to our hand that we could play next turn. And when it comes to Natural Connection, we get a basic on the battlefield tapped, but Sky Shroud Claim, for 1 more mana, gets us 2 forests on the battlefield, and it doesn't specify that they are tapped. Also, it's forest cards, so they could target more expensive lands like Ketria Triome, Stomping Ground, and Breeding Pool. We will still have to pay the 2 life if we want the Shocklands to enter untapped. With Anything is Possible, we have cards like Brainstorm and Rishkar's Expertise. Brainstorm for 1 blue can help us simply adjust the top of our library, getting Pako ready to fetch. Rishkar's Expertise will be an insane card to have, with Pako having tons of counters. We draw cards to the greatest power we control, and we get to cast something 5 CMC or less from our hands. These cards could replace Key to the City and Opt. They're fine in the budget deck, but with this no budget restriction, we want better cards. When it comes to barking up the wrong tree, let's talk about Beast Within, Chaos Warp, and Krosan Grip. Beast Within can get any permanent, and Chaos Warp is more risky, but it can also get any permanent. Krosan Grip is very powerful because it has Split Second. Players can't respond to this spell as long as it's on the stack. The ULTI-MUTT strategy changed in this new deck. I went with the approach of more combat steps. Aggravated Assault, Combat Celebrant, and Fury of the Horde. As long as we have mana, we can have another chance to hit our opponents and get more cards with Pako. If we exert Combat Celebrant, we get an additional combat. And Fury of the Horde allows us to exile 2 red cards from our hand rather than pay the 7 mana to get an additional combat. So there are more ways to get an additional combat. With this category, Don't Stop Retrieving. Let's talk about Hellkite Charger, Relentless Assault, and Savage Beating. A really mean thing to do is have infinite combat steps, so let's talk about how we can do that. We can do this with Aggravated Assault, Savage Ventmaw, or Bear Umbra. We get more mana by attacking. We can also get 6 mana from Savage Ventmaw, and that pays for 5 mana for Aggravated Assault. We could attach Bear Umbra to Pako and untap our lands each time he attacks. So we will exile a lot of cards with this combo, so be careful and know when to stop. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this budget deck. Was it possum or far-fetched? Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like this video, you can leave a thumbs up. If you think I missed a card or you want to make a suggestion for the next deck tech, comment below. If you want to see more of this mango content, you can subscribe to see when I post a new video. Thank you so much for your continued support. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.